let me just tell you a little bit about myself and how I got to be where I am. 2 years ago, I retired as athletic director at Rensselaer, which is a Division One, Division Three school, Division One hockey and Division Three. Before that, I spent 15 years at the University of Albany as a Division One athletic director, responsible for 22 sports. Uh, Before that, I was athletic director at American University, who, by the way, is in the big dance this week. So I was there from 1995 to 2000. And then prior to that, I was at Sacramento State from 1989 to 1995. And I started my career at the University of Houston. From 1982 to 1989, I was the senior associate athletic director. Now, I got into this business by accident. My background is a high school teacher and coach, and I spent 3 years as a high school principal. I went on to get my doctorate at the University of Houston and had a decision to make. Do I stay in public education or would I become an assistant athletic director for student services at the University of Houston? So obviously I changed careers and direction, and after 30 plus years as an athletic director and vice president, I made the right decision. And so we're going to talk a little bit about where college athletics is today. I'm going to stop at 3 o'clock so that we can open it up and have discussion. Discussion about issues that you would like to cover or things that I've mentioned that we would like to go into more detail about. I will say this, that when you pick up the newspaper, or you watch the news, or you go on the internet, you will think that college athletics is in a state of turmoil and is in a state of disruption. And that is the furthest thing from the truth. As one who's spent, as I said, over 30 years as an athletic director, I'm very happy with where college athletics is. We have over 2,000 institutions who compete in college athletics in NAIA, Division Three, Division Two, and Division One. Now, all you hear about and all you read about mostly are Division One institutions, and that's unfortunate. But that's because that's what the media chooses to do, and that's how they allow things to get done. Now, in your course, you are learning and studying, and many of you want to go into the field of athletics to manage and to teach and to develop people. And that's really what college athletics is all about, and that's what sports management is all about. And what do I mean by that? In my over 30 years of being an athletic director, there were five things that I had to do, and I had to do them very well. The first thing I had to do was hire the right people. So I had to hire the coaches, I had to have the staff, many of them were trainers. I had to have academic advisors, I had to have fundraisers, I had to have marketing people, I had to have people in the sports medicine area who could keep everything moving in the right direction. So that's number one. Whatever field of endeavor in management and sport, whether you're at the college level or the high school level, you have to surround yourself with good people. Number two, you have to be able to communicate with different stakeholders. And who are the stakeholders in college athletics? Well, first and foremost, they're the athletes, they're the coaches, they're the parents, they're the media, they're the donors, they're the alumni, they're the corporate supporters. As the athletic director and as a member of the management team, you've got to make sure that all that is coordinated and they're doing the things that you've laid out for yourself. The third area that is very, very important is my boss, the president, and the board of trustees. Now, I happen to be very lucky. I've been on your board of trustees for 10 years at the Sport University. And by the way, we'll talk about the changing of the name when we get into our discussion because I want to have your input on that. But it's very important that the president and the board of trustees, many of you said that you were recruited by coaches, that they're all on the same page, that they all believe the same things, that they all are working together in the best interest of the institution, of the athletes, and also the community. The fourth thing is really important is to make sure that you have what I call lifelong experience. I recall that I was at the University of Houston from 1982 to 1989. I had two Hall of Fame basketball players there, Clyde Drexler and Hakeem Olajuwon. Neither one, when they came to the University of Houston, were Hall of Fame athletes. They were good athletes, not Hall of Famers. They became Hall of Famers because they had talent, they worked hard, and they got better and they developed late in their careers. My point in telling you that story is that whatever area of athletics you go into, whether you're coaching, whether you're a physical therapist, whether you're an exercise scientist, whatever field you go into, make sure that you have an opportunity to make your clients, your staff, the people that work with you better. That's one of the great things about being a manager in athletics. People want to achieve goals. Each one of you want to achieve a goal. That's why you're sitting here. The job of a sports manager, the job of an athletic director, the job of an instructor, the job of a president is to help everybody to get better. And that's really important. And the last thing I'll mention before we get into current topics in college athletics today is, quote, all of you young people like to talk about your brand. And we want to talk a little bit about NIL, name, image, and likeness later. But your brand really is your reputation and who you are and what you stand for and what you believe. It's not so much about uh, your insignia and your logo and how many followers you have and how much of an influencer you are. It's who you are and what contribution are you making to your team, or in this case, to the institution. So that's sort of an overview and a background of how I got to where I am and what I believe in. And oh, by the way, even though I retired in 2023, I'm still very involved as a consultant. I still serve on the board of the National Association of College Athletic Directors, which we'll talk about a little later. So let's talk for a minute, if you will, um, about what's going on today and what's happening. And I'm sure in your coursework, uh, you've covered some of these things. And I mentioned name, image, and likeness. Let's just be very honest and straightforward with you. Name, image, and likeness is MONEYDOLLARS. It's about money. And if you are talented and you can help someone win a championship at an Ohio State, at a Notre Dame, at a Michigan State, all of these top 40 programs, and you're a football player, you're probably going to average about between $100 and $200,000. If you're a men's basketball player, you're going to average between $50 to $150,000. Now, I didn't mention soccer. I didn't mention track and field. I didn't mention gymnastics. If you have a large following on your social media channel, you can make money there, but through a different means. And so the NIL, name, image, and likeness, is about making money. It's about helping teams win. And we'll talk about in a minute why that came about and what it means. The other topic that comes up that I'm sure you've covered in your class is the transfer portal. Now, when I started in college athletics in 1982, if you transferred, you had to sit out a year. You could not be eligible immediately. So a lot of young people, men and young women, decided, you know what, I'm going to stay where I am. I don't want to take a chance on sitting out and not playing for a year. I could lose my talent. I could lose my ability to play. I could be disconnected. That all changed 5 years ago with the transfer portal. You can be somewhere one semester and decide you don't like the coach, you don't like the system, you want to change, and you can go to the next institution and be eligible. A lot of people think that's not the way to approach college athletics. We'll talk about that when we have our open discussion at 3 o'clock. Now, your senator, Senator Tuberville, those of you who follow him should know that he is opposed to the transfer portal. He thinks that it's one-sided, that the athlete can be disloyal, and the institution has no means in order to correct it. So he's working with Senator Ted Cruz now on the Senate Commerce Committee to try to change the transfer portal so that you have to stay at the institution for at least 2 years before you can become eligible to transfer. That's being discussed now. If I were a betting person, I would say that it's not going to become federal law, but we'll see what happens. The other topic that is first and foremost before you right now, and as a matter of fact, Judge Wilkin from California will hand down a decision on April 6th to confirm how institutions can pay $21 million a year to their student athletes. And that money is generated by a lawsuit called the House case, Housc. Mr. House was a swimmer from Arizona State who sued the NCAA and said that they were being unfair in how student athletes were treated. And he won that case, and now it's been adjudicated by the federal court system, Judge Wilkin in California. And I would say that that will be approved. And starting in August of this year, 2025, the Power Four schools, those 60 or 70 institutions, will be permitted to distribute $21 million to their student athletes. And as I said before, most of the people who receive that money will be football, men's basketball, and women's basketball, and a few other people who have at least 300,000 to 400,000 influencers on their media channels. So we're in a new era in college athletics. You can make money. You can even get rich. Some of these young people are getting so much money. But for me, the key is, do you have an education? Do you have relationships with the university? Do you have relationships with your teammates? Or is your ability to work in the organization transactional? One of the great things about college, about sport, is relationships. I just talked to two of my former student athletes this morning about a job that they're looking into, about a career that they're looking into, and the way that college athletics is today, at least at the Division I level, a lot of those relationships are up in the air and being challenged. So let's talk a little bit. Again, we've got about 17 minutes before we have our open discussion. I want to talk a little bit about what the future holds for college sports, and particularly where you're going as managers and as trainers and as physical therapists and being part of the system. I don't think that will be a massive change in terms of what you do. And by that, I mean, people need to stay healthy. They have to make sure that they're training properly. I know one of you said you're going to go into the nutrition area. That's one of the big areas that's really changed over the last 10 years. People are spending $2 to $3 million in athletic programs on nutrition to see that their athletes have 24-hour access to certain nutrition, nutriments, and things that help them perform and take care of their bodies and live healthy lifestyles. So that investment will continue, and I think it's really important. The other thing that you're going to see change, I mentioned Senator Tuberville from Alabama, Senator Cruz from Texas, a Republican senator, both are Republicans. They would like to see antitrust laws govern the NCAA. And what does that mean? That means that the NCAA would not be sued under future conditions, so that people can go ahead on and live their lives and not be in a court of law as they have been since 1990. These cases where the NIL and the transfer portal have come in have been litigated since 1990. That's over 30 years. It's not healthy for any industry. And the fact that we're still moving forward under a different paradigm and a different model says a lot about college athletics. So I'm going to make sure that we continue to keep college athletics relationship-based. All of you talked about your coach. One of you talked about your parents. You're in this class to learn about how to manage sport. You're in the class to learn about how to become a better leader and a better administrator. You can only learn that through education, and that's one of the great things that sport allows us to do. Let me stop there now for a moment and ask you, is there a topic that we did not mention that you would like to cover? Oh, someone mentioned something? Okay, let's talk about the name change. United States Sport University. What does that mean for you, and what do you think about it?
I personally, I appreciated the name change only because I, like Cam, my mom heard about the school, I think on the news, and we were both unaware that this was a 4-year institution. So I had, even when I applied, I had no idea the possibilities that were open to me, just because, you know, whenever I hear the word academy, I don't necessarily think of a 4-year school. Normally I'm thinking of like a military academy, or I'm thinking of something of that nature. So I had no idea the options that were open to me just because of the name. So I definitely appreciate that we're moving in the direction of a university, just so people from the outside looking in can be a little bit more aware of what we have to offer as an institution. So I think it's going to take time to get accustomed to it, but I appreciated it.
Right. Thank you. And I'd like to add on what you just said. And as a trustee, and I will share with you that the trustees, and I've been on the board for 10 years now, all are accomplished people, either in athletics or higher education or law or finance. I mean, you're really fortunate that you have the caliber trustees that you have. And I've said to Dr. Condon since he became the president, what we want to do is to help the university to grow, to help the university's brand and its image and its marketability increase and to be recognizable. And the only way that you can do that, to your point, is to have a brand that recognizes what you're currently doing. And the Academy, again, as you know better than I, has a 50-year history of doing some wonderful things. The next 50 years are a lot different. I served on the board of another college in New York where I worked for 20 years, and they went out of business. St. Rose College. You can Google them and find out. They were a Division II institution. The reason that they went out of business is that they lost track of their brand and how they were going to continue to provide their education to their core group of students in the community. And that's what we're trying to do under this new name change, the branding, the marketability, and the quality. And you're lucky. You're some of the first athletes to be able to make a significant contribution to the institution. You should feel very good about that, and you should feel very special about that. And when we're on campus in November, I hope I get the chance to sit down and talk to you about some of your experiences and ways that we can make them better. Anyone else on the name change and what it means to you, or maybe you didn't like the name change? What else would you like to see to go along with the name change? What are some other things that we can do as trustees, as presidents, as instructors, to make sure that the name is out there and that people understand, as you said earlier, we're a 4-year institution that provides a quality education. What are some of the other things that we should be doing?
Some new degrees y'all might be.
Yeah, new degrees for sure.
Okay. You'd like to see the curriculum expanded?
For sure. Yeah.
Yes. Okay. Okay. That's a very good point, and one again as a trustee, and I'm sure that Dr. Condon and other trustees will also consider that as a key area. One other thing that I'd like to talk, we talked about the name change. You talked about curriculum expansion. I I think getting in front of your community, and all of you are prime examples of what the institution is doing. Whether it's in recruiting other athletes who follow you, whether it's in community service. One of the great things that I loved about my 37 years as an athletic director was I got to work with the Student Athlete Advisory Committee. We call it SAC. I'm sure you have one at the university. And what they would do is we would meet once a month, and they set the agenda. And my job was to come in and respond to what their aspirations were, what their goals were, and how I could help them to be successful. So I think student athlete involvement and engagement beyond your academics, beyond your competing is very important. So if you're not volunteering, if you're not doing some type of community service, put that on your team, talk it over with your coach. It's very, very important. It's all part of having a really strong relationship with your community, and it helps you to grow and make a contribution. It helps the community to grow. And oh, by the way, it also improves your brand and allows you the opportunity for people to see who you really are and what you're trying to do. So add that to the list of things that I've mentioned so far as we look ahead. And finally, before we get into the open discussion period, when I looked at your syllabus, that was an item that mentioned Title IX and gender equity. And one of the things that is very concerning to me right now is that given our current political climate, that is not a top priority nationally and at the federal government level. Um, Title IX, as you know, you studied it, and I'm sure Dr. Spradley has talked about it, is something where you should be able to offer a female athlete and a male athlete the same opportunity to compete, the same opportunity to be successful as anyone at the university. That is not the case now, and that's one of the difficulties that we're having with the House case, with that 20 million that I mentioned that will be expended beginning in August 1 among the Power Four schools. Very little of that money is going to female athletes. A little I mentioned to women's basketball. So we've got to do, those of us who are in leadership positions in college sports, we've got to do a better job to saying to the people at Washington, look, we treat everybody equally. We want everybody to have an opportunity to have a unique experience, not just in college athletics, but in higher education. And you do that by giving them an opportunity. So that is still a huge question mark. Before the Trump administration came in, the Biden administration said that half of the 20 million should go to women. The Trump administration came in and immediately changed that and said that it's left to the institution, that the federal government and the Department of Education should not be involved in that decision. So we'll see where this goes. In 1992, I testified in Congress about gender equity in Title IX. And what came out of that was the national law, the federal law, where you have to report how you are investing in not only the entire athletic program, but also in women's athletics. And that's called the Equity and Disclosure Act. The Equity and Disclosure Act. I was one of the 10 people that testified before Congress when that passed in 1992. So gender equity is very important to me, and I fought for it my entire career at all the places that I've worked, and I'm going to continue to fight for it as we move forward. So let me stop there, and we will now throw the floor open for discussions for any topic, any question that you have for me about any part of college athletics, your journey, where you'd like to see the university go, any of those things is what I call open discussion, open forum. And so now the floor is open.
With me wanting to be an athletic director, like what advice would you give me? I guess. Like that how you said it? Yeah. What advice like would you give to me? So
Well, that's a good question. I think first and foremost, as I said before, you're in college to get an education, and once you get that education, your life is going to change. So that's number one. Number two, you also happen to be competing in a sport. And that makes you unique. Right now, there's less than 1 million people in the United States of America that compete at the college level. So whether you are competing at the United States Sports University or Ohio State, it doesn't matter. You're a rare person. You're a unique person. What you do with that and how you take that and how you advance that in your life and your experience is really important. And one of the things that I say to the young student athletes all over the country when I speak to them is that don't be afraid to fail. Don't be afraid to. Everyone they want the gold star, they want first place, they want the gold medal. They think everybody should get it. What's wrong with not scoring? What's wrong with getting a bronze? You will learn something about yourself. You will have an opportunity to grow. You will have an opportunity to get better. So whether you're competing, how you finish. I mean, no one likes to win more than I win. As I said, of the 68 teams that are in the NCAA tournament now, and 14 of them I have some kind of connection to, either with the athletic director or the coach or the assistant coach that got their teams there. And I am just as proud of them as they are of their teams and their universities, what they're doing. So it all starts with, again, knowing yourself, making a contribution, overcoming the odds, and really enjoying the experience. Because as I say to students all the time, you're only going to do this once. Do it well and do it with the idea, as many of you mentioned earlier when we talked about sharing your and where you want to go and sharing your future. You want to be prepared to be successful once you hit the street. And that's what college athletics and that's what universities can do for you. So thank you for bringing that up.
Dr. McElroy, given that the United States Sports University is new in terms of athletics, what would be some ways that you would recommend in growing the athletic department?
I tell you, I mentioned that I'm still involved on the board um, at NACTA. And so I talk to people all the time. And I also consult with universities across the country. And one of the things that everybody was like to achieve is they want what I call the gold star. And I'll give you an example. I'm between New York and San Antonio in my work and what I do. And University of Texas San Antonio is 50 years old, same age as the United States Sports University. They would like to be Texas A&M. They would like to be the University of Texas at Austin. I like what they're doing at San Antonio, but guess what? Ain't going to happen. So the first thing I would say is to identify who you are. And so you've done that. Now you have an athletic program. And remember what I said, as a manager and as an administrator, the number one thing that you have to do is surround yourself with good people. So your professors, your coaches, your athletes, all have to be people who understand where they are and where they want to go and how they're going to get there. And you will grow your program and you will get your marketability and you will get your image by doing that as a group. And one of the other things that I've learned in all my years in college athletics, people say, well, sports are overrated. They're on TV. The coaches make a lot of money. The president makes a lot of money. The general student who's going to be a physical therapist or going to be an athletic trainer in sports medicine or whatever, they're working hard every day. probably working harder than the athletes, yet the athletes get all the fame and the glory and the money. Shouldn't be looked at that way. It's all, everybody is in it together. We're representing an institution. We have goals that we want to achieve. So, Dr. Spradlin, the first thing I would do is to make sure that everybody in that building, including the trustees, understand where we're going. The next thing you have to do is to be able to generate resources. Now, we haven't gotten into marketing because that's, maybe I can come back and talk to you about that another time. But when I first got into college athletics, the three people that were most important in the room was the compliance officer, so you didn't get in trouble, and the business officer, so you could make sure you didn't go over budget. Well, today, the two most important people are the marketing director and the person who generates revenue. So you have to generate resources. And I know that Dr. Condon has hired a new development officer, and he's got to generate some resources. You've got to make your product attractive in the area, which is happening already, as we've heard two of our students say, that they saw it on the media that the university was offering an opportunity for athletes to get involved and to get an education and to be successful. But it's a grand, it's a really a foundational thing, grassroots approach that you have to do. It starts with your people, and then you have to have the resources, because if you don't have the resources, even if you have good people, you won't be successful. So I know that the board is looking at that. We're very diligent in how we manage the university. We have outstanding people, as I said before, from all over the country who really believe in the mission and who really believe in you. So the marketing is important. The resources are important. The people are important. And you have to get the message out 9 days a week, not 7, 9 days a week. The message has to go out every day. This is who we are. This is what we stand for. This is what we believe. And this is how we contribute to the community. I did this. I did this in New York when I went to University of Albany in 2000. They were a Division III program. In 3 years, they were a Division I program, and we had invested over $40 million in facilities. In 5 years, the men's basketball team was playing UConn in the NCAA tournament in 2006. Led them for 37 minutes. Unfortunately, we lost. But and so you get lucky sometimes too. But you have to be able to take advantage of it. And from that, the University of Albany continued to get enrollment from students outside of the state of New York as a result of the success that they had in athletics. And the academic people also saw it as an opportunity to grow and to develop. So everybody's got to be on the same page. And it starts with the trustee, the president, the student athletes, the coaches, and hopefully the people in the community. I think that's how you grow, and that's how you become a household name.
Thank you, Dr. McElroy. That's really good advice.
As far as like your management positions, how important would you say it is to develop your not just communications, but also just your public speaking skills, would you say?
Wow, that's a great point. One of the things that I've been blessed with is that I mentioned stakeholders earlier in my introductory remarks. I talked about alumni and corporate sponsors, and I spoke about parents, and of course, obviously, our athletes and our coaches, and the community, the people that are around you. You never know as a manager or athletic director, assistant athletic director, whatever your title is when you're in the business, you never know when you're going to be called upon to articulate who you are, what you do, and how you're making a difference in the program. And you can only do that, as you indicated, by having very good communication skills. And, my background is my undergraduate degrees are in political science and history. I did those at UCLA. My master's degree is in educational administration from USC. Unfortunately, I couldn't go to night school at UCLA, so I had to get my master's at SC. That was awful, but that's okay. And I did my doctorate at the University of Houston in educational leadership. But in all of those degrees and all the work that I did in those areas, one of the key things is the ability to communicate, not just speaking, but writing, and the ability to really connect with people in various levels. And I will say this to you. I'm not a very good golfer, but I play. And I started late in life. And I started when I was at Sacramento State. And a guy invited me out and said, I want to talk to you about making a donation. Do you play golf? And at the time, I didn't. And I said to my wife, I said, what should I do? She said, you better buy some clubs and go play. I think this guy wants to give you some money. So I was awful. But anyway, I went out. And from that point on, I realized that you connect with people with common goals. And that gentleman gave me $10 million. His name was Fred Anderson. I'll never forget it. To start a campaign. And we played golf. I was awful. He was very good. Had lunch and developed a friendship that to this day still there. So communication is, being able to speak in front of groups is important. Being able to write is important, but connecting with people is even more important. And it's something that you can never get tired of doing. I still work on it today. Dr. Spradley mentioned that I've been inducted into the NACDA Hall of Fame. I'm going to have to say a few words in June. I'm already working on it. I'm getting a little excited, so I have to calm myself down. But communication is critical. Again, it's a connecting point in what you do. And you, as an athlete, as a coach, as an athletic director, whether you like it or not, you're in public life. And when you walk down the street, you are the track person or the baseball or the softball person, and people look to you and they think you have something special. And so you want to be able to protect that and feel good about it. But that's a very good point, and thank you for raising it.
Absolutely.
Dr. McElroy, congratulations on your induction into the Hall of Fame. In your career, have you had the experience of working with any of the Hall of Fames at any of the institutions that you've had positions with?
Oh, that's a great question. So I mentioned that I was at the University of Houston and from 1982 to 1989. And so Cedric Dempsey, who's retired, he formerly was president of the NCAA, and he actually was my mentor. So he's at the top of the list. And then Guy Lewis, who was the basketball coach at the University of Houston, is also in the Hall of Fame. And then a guy who never gets any mention publicly, but is one of the finest people that I've ever known. He's passed away, is the former golf coach at the University of Houston, Dave Williams. Dave Williams won 16 national championships. And get this, folks, never played golf in his life. And so your question to me is, wait a minute. How did he coach golf for 32 years, win 16 national championships, recruit people like Freddie Couples and Steve Elkington, among others, and not ever swing a golf club? Communication, relationship, trust, and accountability. And let me just tell you a quick story about Dave, because he and I would get to the office, Dr. Spradley, very early. And I was always an early riser. Get there around 7, so he'd get there around 7. We'd have a cup of coffee, and we'd talk about a number of things. And I said, Coach, can you explain something to me? Every Monday, you have, in golf, they call it a trial round. You have 20 guys that go out on a trial round every Monday. 15 are going to fail because you're only going to take 5 to your golf event that weekend. What happens to the other 15 guys? Do they fail? Do they feel bad? Or excuse my language, are they pissed off? Are they angry? And he said to me something very interesting that I never will forget. They signed up to compete. They signed up to be the best that they could be. And if they fail one day and they decide that they aren't ready for that, they will need to move on. What they should do once they fail is find a way to get better. And I never saw any of those young men, and I'm in touch with many of them today, although we're not as young as we used to be. They all love the experience. And that's what we call, and it's very important in what you do as well, culture building. Culture building is where you set a tone for your organization, for your student athletes, for your coaches, for your university that people believe in. and they will work very hard. And the fact that they will not be one of the 5 that goes out to represent the institution or the 15 that stays home, it doesn't matter. They're going to come back the next week and work hard and believe in what you do. So you got to have those people around that believe in it. And I've been very fortunate. Kevin White, who's also been on it. I've worked with him very closely over the years. He's also a past president of NACDA, as I am. He's won the Corbett Award. And that's when you have people who are dedicated, Dr. Spradley, to the profession, they have several things in common. They believe in people, they're honest, they build trust, and they communicate well. And those of you that are going to go into the fields that you're going into, those are attributes that are very important. So thank you for the question.
Hey, Mr. McElroy. You just spoke on culture building and culture building like through the athletes, but with the not just athletes, but what are some of the key skills you look for in hiring people for your organization?
That is a great question. So in my career, I've hired over 100 head coaches who then hired assistant coaches. And I will give you the 5 things that I look for when I hire coaches, and I've got a pretty good track record. And let me just say this, X's and O's and knowledge, they're not in the 5. I want to say that again. I don't care how much football you know. I don't care how much basketball you know. I don't care how much track and field you know. I don't care how much softball you know. What I do care about is how you treat the athletes. So that's number 1. Uh, your ability to build trust, your ability to build respect, your ability to communicate, your ability to be honest, your ability to be accountable. That is number 1 at the top of my list. Right below that is the ability to get along with your colleagues. One of the things that I do when I hired coaches was, everybody sends out these wonderful resumes, and I get calls from all over the country from, oh, this is Rick Pitino. I want to, oh, this is so-and-so. I want to recommend, and that's all well and good. I don't take those calls. Number 1, they take up too much time, okay? And I would never get the coach hired. So, but what I do look for is someone who has been involved with the coach, but at a level that you wouldn't understand. And who might that be? The custodian, the person who is lives in the neighborhood, who's come across the coach in a capacity in a grocery store, a family member. Those are the people that I talk to find out what type of person and human being is this person. And I keep a really good file on that. The third thing that I look for when I hire a coach is to make sure that he or she puts the athletes first. I get so tired of people complaining about, well, it used to be in the old days that when kids weren't getting paid, we could control them. It's not about control. You want people to be successful. You want people to connect. You want them to have an opportunity to make a difference, not only in their lives, but in the lives of others. And the fourth thing, and it's really important, is recruiting. When we, everywhere that I've worked, when we hired coaches, I've asked them for a recruiting plan. And again, we know if you in track and field and you run sprints, we know what the metrics are and the times and all that. I'm not talking about that. I'm talking about the talent that they bring as an individual, the talent that they bring as a student, the talent potentially that they bring as a leader, the talent that they bring to represent the program, the athletic program, and the institution. Those things are very important. And then last, finally, but I think it's also very important, and I mentioned earlier, communication and working with stakeholders, donors, corporate people, alumni, parents. How are you in those settings? Because if you can't feel comfortable in those settings, I don't care how good you can coach, you're not going to have lifelong success. So those are the things that I look for. And I've been very lucky and very fortunate. And as I said, I've got 14 programs in the NCAA now, people that have worked with me over the years, either as assistants or head coaches, and they practice those skills very well and turned out to be successful. So that is a great question. And I hope that you're able to utilize some of the things that I just pointed out.
Yeah, no, that's excellent advice. Thank you for that, Dr. McElroy. And we probably have about 5 more minutes in class, and I do want to acknowledge Dr. Fred Camardi, who he's actually the instructor for this class, and we have Dr. Rock King, two of our professors. Not sure if they have any additional questions as well, or any of the other students. Do y'all have anything else that you want to ask Dr. McElroy?
Oh, first of all, defer to the students if they've got any questions.
Looks like the students. You got something, Dr. King?
Yeah, thoughts on Johnson v. NCAA and the pending NRLB cases in Southern California with designating athletes as employees?
Well, that is a great point. And remember that I said earlier, I mentioned Senator Tuberville and Senator Cruz are working on this federal bill. One of the things that they are going to put in that bill, if it passes, and it's years from happening, by the way. I know a little bit about the federal government, and it's not going to happen right away. Uh, you cannot have student athletes like the student athletes that are in your room right now being employees. Uh, because if you become an employee, you don't just become an employee of the track program or the softball program. As you well know, you become an employee of the university. So the two big things that are out there right now, and you just touched on one, is the antitrust that I mentioned earlier, and whether or not student athletes are employees of the university. And basically, collective bargaining is why they're suggesting that the student athletes should be employees. Uh, we don't need it. Athletics is based on trust. It's based on respect. It's based on accountability. It's based on lifelong relationships. And I've worked for 5 institutions, and I only work for myself now. So I can say this. And I loved everywhere that I worked. I loved working there. But it's different when you're an employee and the board of trustees or the president calls you in the office and say, we need to talk about X and Y. That is no longer a relationship between an athlete and a coach of the university. That's an employee relationship. And I think if you get to that point, like you have an NFL or like you have an NBA or like you have a WNBA or Major League Baseball, then it's a totally different thing. You no longer have college athletics. So that's my personal opinion, and we'll see where it goes.
Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. McElroy, and we certainly appreciate you taking the time to speak with our students. We apologize for the technical difficulties. We wasted probably about 20 or so minutes.
That's okay. Look, these students were terrific. I'm glad that we had a chance to connect. Their journeys are fantastic. It really epitomizes what college sports is all about. And we just got to find a way between the coaches and the students and the faculty and the alumni and the board of trustees to make sure that the United States Sports University continues to grow and to prosper. So I'm happy to do it, and I'm sure that I'll be talking to you again soon.
Absolutely.
I
Thank
have
you.
one question before we go.
Yes.
Dr. McElroy, this is Dr. Cromartie. Can you
Yes.
speak to the importance of establishing a network as they move forward in their educational careers and through their career?
Boy, I touched on it a little bit, when I talked about relationships and I mentioned that I went out to play golf with Fred Anderson and a week later got a $10 million check. But it is the epitome of what you do. Being in the industry as I've been for 37 years, that's a long time. I've been fortunate to work at 5 institutions. That's a long time. I can walk in any of those institutions and say, hello, let's have a cup of coffee. Let's continue to do good work. I think the world of you. That is all based on networking. I mentioned when I hire coaches, I don't just look at their resume. I look at the people that they're connected to. I talk to the student athletes. I talk to the neighbors. I talk to the custodian. Networking really is everything because it's who you are, the people who you're affiliated with and who you're associated with. So you can't ever underestimate it. I mentioned Cedric Dempsey, who was my mentor. Just one quick story. So when he hired me in 1982, there were 13 of us on the leadership team. 13. 12 of us of the 13 went on to be athletic directors across the country. And that is unheard of in just about any business where you can have a leadership team and everyone goes off and becomes a leader in their own right, representing an institution. And I've thought many times, why did that happen? We were all drinking the same sauce. And by that, I mean, we worked hard. We believed in each other. There was no backstabbing. There was always respect. There was always trust. There was always communication. That's how you build your network. And to this day, and 8 of the 11 will be at my induction in June. We're still in touch after almost 40 years. So to your point, networking is very important.
Thank you.
That's awesome.
Well, thank you, everyone. I will see many of you in, if I don't see you in May, I will see you in November. And Dr. Franny, thanks for the opportunity and
Yes, sir.
look forward to seeing you and continued success to everyone.